do kind of wish that they would have spaced them out and moved somebody to Friday so that we weren't getting, it would help us a lot on the content side, so we didn't have to.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you didn't like getting double teamed, which I understand, Sean. I get it.
As long as I get the heads up, I can at least prepare for it.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi.
Always two there are. We're a dyad in the Force.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. This is episode 48. We're talking episode 10, Retrieval, and episode 11, Metamorphosis from the Bad Batch tonight. I'm your host, Obi Sean, joined as always by my co-host with the most, Jedi John. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I got the most. What's going on?
How are we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. It was a good week. I mean, we talked Mando just a couple days ago. Now we've got Bad Batch. And, I can't get over the fact we got two Clone Wars callbacks in the same two animation callbacks in the same week. So one Rebels. We're going to talk about one from Clone Wars today. So pretty sweet stuff.
We are definitely spoiled when it comes to the glut of content that we get. I do kind of wish that they would have spaced them out and moved somebody to Friday so that we weren't getting, it would help us a lot on the content side, so we didn't have to.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you didn't like getting double teamed, which I understand, Sean. I get it.
As long as I get the heads up, I can at least prepare for it. So
smart. Preparation's key.
It's all about strategy. So we've got a double dose of Bad Batch tonight, episode 10 and 11. I would say one was definitely more exciting than the other, right? But we'll just kind of dive into 10, right? Retrieval. Do you want to give the fine folks at home the 30,000 foot recap? Because it was a pretty straightforward entry.
Yeah, we're going to high level this. So the Batch finds himself still stranded on our planet that we left him on last episode. They are moving towards the city since they need to get to it for communication and hopefully a shuttle of some kind to get off planet. And they realize once they start getting there that Omega realizes that they can track Gonk, basically, who's still on the ship. So they track Gonk and they realize that, Gonk's they're in the hangar right now down there. So they infiltrate and figure out what's going on. They find their thief that stole it from them. And we find, he's not such a bad thief. He's just trying to survive.
True. That's true.
And it just turns into a saving the mine type episode where you have the tyrant at the top of the list that it doesn't share all the information. It's hoarding all the resources. That's giving out. It's basically indentured servitude, I would say it. And at that point, I mean, he's just giving minuscule portions of food to his workers and telling them it's not enough, even though he's upstairs with a feast. And you know what happens in those episodes of TV shows? The workers eventually find out.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where we left them. So, and the Bad Batch obviously reclaimed their ship and cruised off world.
Yeah.
So,
and they lived happily ever after all of that. Right. That's pretty much how it ends. And
yeah, did I miss anything?
No, I mean, that was pretty much it. And
yes.
And that was the thing, right? It was, we talk about brain break episodes, right? We kind of I've had those maybe 2 or 3 times this season so far. And typically there's been some form of underlying meaning or growth opportunity or something like that from those episodes. And looking at this, I'm kind of having a hard time seeing it. Right. So the thief, the young boy, Benny, steals the jets to try and impress Mako, and Drake is the I guess the right hand man, right? And
Drake's second in command there. Yeah.
it seems that way. And we talked about it in episode 9 how Wrecker, chasing after the ship kind of had an Unkar plot moment, and this was definitely an Unkar plot moment with the hoarding of portions, right? And so it's hard to understand, kind of short of again being a complete brain break episode, if there was something to be gleaned from this, whether that's Omega's character growth to some extent in one, her problem solving, right, to recognize that Gonki could be traced or tracked or what have you. Even Tech didn't even think about that, right? And he was impressed by her knowledge of that, down to her interaction with Ben or Benny. Like, I guess from an importance perspective, did you gather anything from this entry?
Not so much from the team development, I think that nothing, definitely not as much as we got the episode prior.
Mm-hmm.
I think the, Filoni and Lucasfilm's trying to enrage our children against authority, and I'll wait for it. I'll continue waiting, but I think that they're slowly trying to show them that the people at the top need to fall. Was that what you got? I don't know.
It's a subtle,
Maybe it's a reach.
Revolt against your parents mentality. I hope not.
Yeah, I guess my kid can't watch Bad Batch now. Shoot. No, I think overall, I think I always try to bring it in the real world of what the meaning truly is, and this one just showed an evil tyrant that was withholding stuff from their people that were, truly oppressing the people. So, in instances like that, action needs to be taken by somebody. So, pretty cut and dry episode though.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't make that connection for some reason, the way we did, say, with episode 9, for example, to kind of the corporate greed, kind of the corporate structure, right, of a lot of businesses, right, and how the select few ride the backs of the many and give them their scraps, right? I don't know how I didn't recognize that. Maybe it was so well, constructed within the animation that I completely zoned out on that, or I was trying to catch up because I was actually late to the party watching episode 10, so I was just kind of trying to get through that to get to episode 11, and so maybe
overall it was a solid episode, but we've seen that story played out so many times. I feel like in other TV shows, movies.
Yeah, and of course they ask or they offer to have Ben come with them, and naturally he wants to stay because it's his home, and with the evil leader out of the way, they can run things kind of how they want, right? And of course they have plenty of food to go around once the glutton is removed, basically.
Just revisit them in 10 years and see Benny as the tyrant overlord that he's going to become. After he overthrows Drake, obviously.
Right, exactly. He's going to have some sort of internal insurgency to overthrow Drake. So yeah, and that's the extent of it. And they get the Marauder back. I know we talked a bit last week because, again, I had yet to see it. And you'd made mention that it was still on planet and only, 30 kilometers away, which I to some extent, I do wish that it would have been a slightly more challenging for them to get it back, to like go maybe that extra episode without it, or have to somehow overcome a larger obstacle than getting like a speeder skiff to operate enough to get there. But I understand the need to compress that distance as well, simply because we have 5 episodes left: 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So I imagine there's probably a lot to get to with the rest of the season. So having said that, how would you, jumping into the reviews and the ratings real quick, how would you rate this episode?
It didn't move the story along very much. I would just give it like a 7, just solid 7. Just C C episode.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing special. Certainly nothing like we got in The Crossing, episode 9. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. Probably no more than a 7. So real quick, checking out the IMDb boards. We are a couple weeks now removed from the episode dropping. So we got 1.2, 1,200 reviews, 6.7 out of 10. So again, nothing overly exciting for the greater IMDb community. Can't really say we're surprised by that. Real quick, looking at the actual user reviews, there are 7 of them, so about standard for an episode. Posey fan, our old friend, 7 out of 10. Again, saying the weekly release schedule is hurting the show immensely. And we talked about that last episode, right? Like, kind of these singular breaks can hurt the flow to some extent because you're kind of on a high and then you kind of immediately crash back down and you're kind of sitting there.
Yeah,
so
this was definitely the end of that storyline. This could have been one episode with the other one. I mean, they could have made one long episode.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, 5 out of 10, better than the last, or was it? This person thought it was actually better than episode 9. Interesting point of view there. Yeah, talking about the employer who now has a bunch of young employees revolting, so kind of that corporate structure thing. 8 out of 10, got a nice, good episode rating. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot there. 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And then no rating, just says another filler, Z's, as in sleepy. And then the last one.
I do love the fact that we went off of we just came off the Mandalorian episode that we covered, and it was chock full of reviews, and then you're like, there's 7. That is good.
There were 104 user reviews the other day when we recorded about episode 1, and there are 7 for this. So there is a clear disconnect in engagement between the two shows. But again, not really surprising. 5 out of 10. Why would you trust a thief who robbed you?
Well, Omega did not make a very smart play there, but
Yeah, formulaic. Hopefully more episodes with Crosshair. Yeah, where is our friend Crosshair? Is he safe?
Where is Crosshair?
Let's see. And then the last one, 5 out of 10, take a shot for every cliche. Untrustworthy kid listens to untrustworthy kid. Untrustworthy kid betrays MC, main characters. There it is. Untrustworthy kid redeems himself, forgiven for almost killing main characters, and starts no drama at all. Bad guy has less depth than a modern Far Cry villain. Take my hand and I'll take you down with me, cliche. Yeah, would have been nice to see Hunter get PO'd with Benny for almost letting Omega die, which is true. They do kind of just gloss over the fact that he completely betrays Omega to the point where she is slightly in peril. Although again, nothing's going to happen. The George of the Jungle
armor on that one's pretty thick.
Yeah, and the George of the Jungle swing across the ipsium chasm. It's like, I mean, I of course he's going to catch her. So again, it's supposed to be a fun kid show. I understand that, so I'm not gonna nitpick things too much. But yeah, I can kind of get behind how does the batch just completely gloss over the fact that Benny tries to betray them in the hopes of gaining Employee of the Month, which really is what that is, right? He just wants to be Employee of the Month.
I just want my name on the wall. I just want my picture taken and my name on the wall.
So that's episode 10. Let's pivot now to episode 11, Metamorphosis, and go.
Oh, you want me to take it again?
You are the recap. You are the recap man.
Yeah, super fun episode. We open up with Sid seeing the guys and Omega on the ship, saying, "Hey, I got some intel on a down ship. If you go get it and bring me something good, I'll cut you in on it, 30%." And that's the normal cut. So they quickly deny that, and it gets to 50-50. And they reluctantly are like, "Okay, we got to go." But even Tech points out, like, cutting ties with Sid like this might not be our best move. So we need to be careful on how we kind of tread through this. And we get to the planet. I mean, Bad Batch starts investigating the ship. They realize that there's something not good here. Something not good got out of its containment, and it's Kaminoan tech. So Omega's like, I've seen all this stuff. Like, this is all Kaminoan. They were trying to clone something here, and they quickly run into the Willow Beast.
Zillo.
That will obviously,
The
Zillo Beast.
Zillow
Did I say
Beast.
Willow Beast.
The Willow Beast.
Sorry, Zillo Beast.
Willow.
Beast.
Willow.
No, it's a Zillo Beast. Willow.
Willow, you idiot.
Zillo Beast. Man, Willow Beast, Jesus. Zillo Beast. See, now I'm gonna do it the rest of the night. So the Zillo Beast and Willow.
Just imagine you're browsing for real estate you can't afford. See, it's on Zillow. It's Zillow Beast.
Yeah, you got to Zillow it.
It's Zillow gone wild.
Beast.
Zillow gone wild.
So it's Zillow Beast, and they don't understand what this creature is because they've never seen one or encountered it. But they do know the beast after Tech does some research on it. It's a beast that just consumes energy at high rates and grows exponentially based on how much it consumes. So the electro staff, as they get the ship up and running, the generators and everything else, it's just it just grows as it consumes energy. So they somehow get it to get out of the ship, and
Tech blows a hole in the side of the ship trying to blow it up.
Right. Oh yeah, because he blew the generator.
Yeah, he
right?
shoots the generators.
He shoots the generators.
Step back.
Blew inside a hole, and he's like, "I'm not dead from that," and he just runs out. But the Zillo Beast winds up heading towards the city that's there, the village, and then finds power supply and quickly starts turning into Godzilla on the on the power lines. Obviously the whole town goes dark, and Empire swoops in, collects its asset, and moves on. That's basically the end of that storyline. Outside of that planet, we did have on Mount Tantus, is that right? Tantus. Mount Tantus, we catch up to Lamassu and Nalase. Yeah, Nalase is in the cell. Gets asked for help, but by Dr. Hemlock, which we have not met yet, but we caught up to him on the facility that we left Nalase at on the finale of Bad Batch season 1. So he wasn't gonna get help from her. She basically was just like, I'm not doing this. So they find the other Kaminoan that is available, which is Lamassu. He was kept on Coruscant, so Hemlock had him flown there. And he basically said, if you want Nalase's help, the way to do it is to find a particular clone girl. So the hunt is on for Omega again. So I'm excited to see what bounty hunters we get to bring in, personally. So, and that's kind of the end of the episode. Nothing else outside of that, I don't think I'm missing.
Yeah, no, well recapped. That was choice. Yeah, Hemlock. I think Hemlock's going to become quite the villain, or at least I hope he does, because he definitely has that super villain, like superhero super villain vibe, right? Like I have this secret plan, and it will be super secret and super awesome, and he doesn't care who he has to destroy to be successful, right? And that the Emperor has put him in charge now of the entire cloning operation there, right?
Yep.
So he's got some pull for sure. Yeah, so a couple talking points. Real quick with Sid, I know you touched on it again in the recap, but there is definitely some friction there, especially since Hunter says, what makes you think we'll come back at all, right? Like if you find anything, right? What makes you think we'll come back? And there's definitely got to be some break off by the end of the season. Like, I don't think that relationship lasts to the end of the season.
It can't. I mean, I think it's going to be a sloppy break. I think there's going to be some mess left. And I think that's just how it's going to have to be. So,
and I think that I think we talked about it at the beginning of the season, maybe after we watched the faster episode, that they're going to kind of cash in their one favor from her, right? Because she owes them a lot right now. Like they've bailed her out of multiple jams and everything like that. And I suspect that they're going to cash that in here once the Empire discovers that they are being housed on Ord Mental, and they need an out, they need an escape, and I think she's going to facilitate that, and that's going to be the separation, and she's going to quote unquote sacrifice herself for the squad to help them escape. I think that's kind of where we're going.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. So, and then the main creature, the Zillo beast, right? Call back to Clone Wars, and it was originally captured in an attempt to, and I think Tech talks to it, right, with Palpatine wanting to utilize its impervious, impenetrable armor, and he had wanted to gain access to that during the Clone Wars for the Grand Army of the Republic. So,
because he wanted to use it against other. I mean, he wanted to use it as a weapon.
Well, he wanted
to,
right, exactly. He wanted to use it to protect the troops at the time, but then I'm sure pivot. Right? Yeah. Air quotes.
Air quotes around that. Yeah.
but then they end up killing the beast as it goes on like a tirade through Coruscant, and so they clearly took that Zillo beast and used it to clone the one that we find on the ship, right? And they're housing that creature on the ship in an effort to get the armor, say, for the stormtrooper, for the TK project. Are they looking to use the armor for maybe like the dark trooper program, right? Because those are highly impervious to blaster fire, right? Or are they wanting to clone the beast to effectively utilize the beast to, terrorize as needed? So what are your theories, if any, on what the purpose of that particular creature is now, post Clone Wars?
I mean, I just go back to the whole, I mean, you could use that and weaponize that animal for whatever you wanted to, as long as you know how to control it. So, which it seems like they know how to tame it at this point. They have the weapons to immobilize it, and which we saw at the end of the episode. So I think that Palpatine wanted it cloned for multiple reasons, but one of them has to be as a weapon. Maybe even if it's in his back pocket for something, but he wanted to weaponize it, I would believe.
Yeah, with something like that, you would need a supersized choke collar to like a zap collar to keep that thing in line, because actually technically I guess it would feed off of that. But
yeah, no zap collars. Which is why I'm confused on why they had like electro staffs and stuff like that, because the thing loves those things. Why would you go off of that? But
yeah, that's a good point. I don't, because that clone trooper had or I guess it was technically still clone trooper had the staff at the beginning, and he just ate it, and then of course ate him. So maybe it had something to do with electrocuting through the water but anyways, yeah, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, just kind of talking through things there. Short of weaponizing the animal, if they are able to utilize the armor, it would make sense that actually it could be for the Dark Trooper program, because we obviously know that they don't utilize it for the TK program. So assuming they're able to gain anything from it, I think that's probably the way they pivot, just because, again, we know after watching Mando Season 2 that they are not stopped by much, basically. And then the last thing, Hemlock and the Kaminoans, right? We kind of, again, talked about him being the big bad. Him trying to coax Nala Se into helping do whatever it is that they plan to do on the mountain, right? Which is obviously more than just the Zillo Beast cloning. So are they planning to is the new project they're starting to plan clonings of Force sensitives? Is it strictly the cloning program for Palpatine, such that he has multiple vessels to transform himself, or transpose himself into over time? Given what we know about Grogu and in Mando, I suspect that it has something to do with the Force sensitive cloning program.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's two things happen, right? I think that Lama Su 100% nailed it, right? It wasn't that you guys wanted to eliminate cloning, it just that you wanted to control it. So, and what I felt was most interesting here is how he played it versus how Nala Se played Hemlock. Lama Su is the politician of the two of them, obviously, versus Nala Se, the head scientist. So it was very, very interesting how Nala Se was just like, I'm not going to help you do this to hurt anybody or anything else. Like, and she basically said it must be crazy to have all these resources, but no,
Not know how to use them.
no action.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to use them, yeah. But Lama Su shows up and he's like, yeah, just dealt with the Empire on Coruscant. Why am I here? And Hemlock's like, well, I need you to persuade Nala Se. And he's like, here's the deal. Like, I know I'm your prisoner, but I can leverage you the same way you're trying to leverage me right now. I want to be free. You want something also. I know that if you don't succeed, you'll be punished. So you're going to help me help you. So he immediately leverages the situation into his own. It kind of just tips the scales a little bit into his own, which is just shows he was a prime minister. Like, he leveraged every situation into an advantage for himself. Whereas Nala Se doesn't understand that. So
yeah, it is an entirely different mindset, and it's curious because Lama Su doesn't really have a whole lot of leverage. I mean, if we think about it, right? Because he's a prisoner of the Empire, right? He has no leverage, yet he does find himself in sort of a powerful position, simply through happenstance. Because at the end of season 1, I thought he was toast. I think we talked about it during our recap on the last episodes. Like, when they walked in there with the troopers, he served his purpose, right? There is nothing further. Now, maybe they brought him on as like, or they kept him, I shouldn't say brought him on, but, kept him on Coruscant to just for a moment like this. Or if they were kind of picking his brain about, because I mean, he's not completely stupid when it comes to that technology, right? And how the process kind of gets set up. So, but yeah, it's interesting that he finds himself in this position because, yeah, he really doesn't have anything to offer other than the knowledge of Omega. And he knows that, well, one, again, obviously Nala Se is particularly fond of her, or, cares for her. But more importantly, he doesn't, right? He sees her as a tool and has always seen her as a tool, which is why he sent Cad after her. And so, yeah, back to your point, I am really curious to see who gets sent after her. And could this be where we get Boba? I know we keep saying it could be Boba about everything, but because wouldn't that be something, right? Like, if it's him and then he learns that they're related.
The Empire's used Boba before. The Empire would use Boba. So it's well documented. Granted, it's legends, but well documented that Vader's used Boba multiple times prior to him showing up on in episode 5.
Right. And if it is him and then he learns that they're related, well, that would be interesting to see what, if anything, were to come from that. But I mean, they've already used Cad, they've already used Fennec. Again, Boba's an obvious choice. You could, I guess, get Bosk, or I'm trying to think of who else would, or I guess it could just be a no-name person. But I think that this would be an opportune time to, if they were going to play the Boba card, which again, I know we've been harping Boba from the start.
We were hoping he was going to show up.
Yeah, that this would be the perfect time to do that. So, where do you see the rest of this season going? I know we already kind of talked about it with the Bad Batch, but given, and their separation from Sid most likely, where's Crosshair? How's Crosshair going to work back into this season?
I imagine we'll have some kind of mission mixed up with Echo and Rex again, where they come back into a contact with Crosshair. I don't know how it's exactly going to play out, but that's the only way I see Crosshair coming back to the team. I mean, at this point, after watching the previous episodes with Crosshair in them, he's already leaning against the Empire at this point again. Like, he's not 100% sold. He knows the clones on their way out. He knows Rampart's. He's not reporting to Rampart anymore. He there is no loyalty there. So I have a feeling that we're going to get a small Crosshair redemption of some kind, whether it be in a mission where they're doing something and Crosshair saves them by sacrificing himself, or Crosshair comes back to the team. I don't know what it's going to look like. But overall, I feel like we're going to get a bounty hunter after the team, because we know they're after Omega again. Empire will be. And then that'll reignite a lot of things, because Rampart reported that Bad Batch were dead. So I feel like that's where we get the Sid breakup, is because the Empire will lean wherever they need to. And so if the Empire shows up on Ord Mantell, like you said, Sid's going to cave under pressure. Maybe she sacrifices herself in order to get them out, but they're going to find out that Clone Force 99 is alive and well at some point. So, and yeah, I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, obviously we're not too far into the storyline as far as years in, but at the same time, we don't know where what the finish line is for the Bad Batch outside of Rex. We know Rex survives, so
right.
Other than that, I mean, anything can happen. So,
yeah, and at the end, the discussion between one of the scientists and Hemlock talks about how a ship blasted off from the planet, right? It was chased off, and I would have a hard time believing that they wouldn't recognize at least the shape of the ship to know kind of the class, not necessarily what it looks like, right? But the class of ship,
right.
And if they're able to narrow down that it's a Havoc class ship, right, it would make it far easier to track, right? And I mean, there were probably 6 or 7 Imperial gunships, not Republic anymore. Sorry, Imperial gunships in the same area, that with three or four of them chasing after them on the way out. So, I mean, they've kind of made themselves in this episode, right? They've revealed that they are still around, presuming they do enough digging, which they will. The thing that go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the other thing, because we went back to the planet real quick just for the gunship chase, right? But they also imprisoned, during that last conversation, were there any witnesses? There was a village of people.
They just took the whole village.
That they took the whole damn village.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, they took the whole village. So to avoid any witnesses, so what they're doing or who took care of it, or
well, and
just erased it from the Jedi archive right there.
And what are they going to do to those people? Are they just going to imprison them?
They are.
Are they going to?
They're building the Death Star. What are you talking about?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, they just got labor. They got a new labor force.
It's awful.
I mean, it is.
I mean, we've learned from Andor that
it tracks.
It doesn't stop them from doing anything. But as far as the reintegration of Crosshair, I feel at this point, again, with only 5 episodes left, it would almost feel rushed, any sort of reintegration plan, because we haven't seen him since episode 3, and we're about to have episode 12 here in a couple days. And if he just up and shows up out of nowhere, I don't know, it'll almost feel forced. And I'm hoping that they don't just shoehorn Crosshair's reintegration back into the story, because that would be disappointing.
Unless he's one of the guys that gets sent after him after the Bad Batch.
True, because he's the one
So,
who would
like,
know
could-
everything about them, right? Like their moves and I just don't know how. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's in charge, who would make that call, and maybe it is Hemlock who is pulling the strings on. He has a free reign of resources, right? I want this person, this person, this person, and you now work for me, sort of thing. Because yeah, so I could see that could make some sense. I could buy that. Anything else for episode 11 from your side?
No, I think that's it. Just I guess we gotta get to the ratings, right?
Let's do the review. What would you give Metamorphosis?
I mean, I love my callbacks and I love my monsters. So, and we got to see more of the cloning stuff and some more Empire dealings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd give it a solid. I'd probably give it an 8, just because we got some more cloning stuff, some more fill in the blank stuff. So give it an 8.
Yeah, I'm probably in that 8.5 range, just because it was a more tense episode. I do like the introduction of Hemlock. Again, I think he's going to be, if he sticks around long enough, I think he could be an interesting villain, especially because of the way he was voiced. It's very, again, kind of calculating, right? It's almost I haven't yet watched Rebels, but how I imagine Thrawn being, very methodical and calculated and procedural. Which, speaking of which, I am gonna watch. I am gonna start watching Rebels again. So, but yeah, I would give it. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna give it 8.5. So out of 1,200 ratings again. So that seems to be the trend for these episodes. Basically 1,200 and it dies out. 8.3. So pretty much smack dab in the middle of our 2 ratings. So pretty solid episode according to the IMDb family. 9 user reviews for this episode. So 9 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Zillo is back just in time to devour the haters. Go Zillo Beast. Posey fan, Zillo Beast returns. 8 out of 10, if I didn't say the score. Another 8 out of 10 plot-driven episode. 8 out of 10, it finally came back. 9 out of 10, Zillo Beast is back. Fantastic. Finally, a fantastic thread, 9 out of 10. And then the one, 5 out of 10. This should have been episode 1. That's interesting. Let's see. On a good note, this was better than most.
You get that one, but yeah, could have been.
Unfortunately, this episode comes far too late after so many underwhelming and pointless episodes. Add to that, the team failed in yet another mission, which is true. They did. They are, and you talked about it a few episodes.
I wouldn't have wanted to capture that, though. I mean, they are not successful very often right now, but wouldn't want to be successful. How do you split a Zillo Beast 50-50 with Sid? I guess you sell it to the highest bidder on the black market.
One person gets it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the other person gets it Tuesday, Thursday, and they trade off weekends. I mean, that's pretty much how it works.
Oh boy.
It says, unfortunately, this episode comes too far late in the season. Omega just so happened to have knowledge to provide in a way that sums up the season's contrived writing. Worst of all, they have to bring back a creature from the Clone Wars series. Can these writers and showrunners not come up with an original story? Ouch. This will be the final season of the series. The bar cannot be raised up to this point, yet more IP destroyed by people who cannot write stories that are meaningful and lasting. Very sad indeed. So that person clearly was not a fan, which is interesting because, again,
it's an angry elf.
He was an angry elf. I think their screen name was Badger, so it's an angry badger.
Honey badger don't give a.
I'm surprised by that, just because, again, it was a more engaging episode than.
I thought it was definitely plot driven. I mean,
Yeah.
It gave you the background on what the Empire is doing. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I would agree. It could be. It could have been episode 1 of
Mhm.
this series, this season. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
without question, because it would have carried on what where Nala Se went at the finale of last season. So
Mm-hmm.
it absolutely could have been episode 1. But I don't know. Could have been.
Yeah.
I actually can agree with that. I can get behind that. It could have been episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we would have like not understood why the Bad Batch is doing what they're doing.
Exactly, and is so miffed with Sid, and I mean, I guess that's really the only thing that needed any sort of backstory for this episode again their relationship to Sid. But as far as the showrunners not having an idea or trying to, or not being able to write an original story or come up with an original idea, I think that's just somebody who's chaff that maybe the story isn't being told the way that they want. Kind of goes back to some of the other things, some of the other shows, for example, right? Maybe Boba Fett, for example, right? Disappointment because you had this certain vision in mind, and then the story that you got wasn't that vision, and so you don't like it, basically. I think that's kind of the situation here, right? They had some sort of vision in their mind of how they wanted the story to track, and it's not tracking that way. So naturally, the story must be bad, and the writers must not know what they're doing. So I'm sure we've said that a couple times last season, and then it ended in a way that I think everyone could be happy with. So we've got 5 episodes left. There's basically a third of the season, so there's a lot for them to do. So
I think it's just crazy too. Like, I mean, it's still animation, and I know like some people expect a lot out of any Star Wars show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's still, this is built for kids, and that review is not a kid's review. So
nope. So that's pretty much the extent of our discussion for episode 11. And so with that, again, keep it short and sweet. We're going to bring this episode to a close. We want to thank you all for listening. If you do enjoy the content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, rate, follow, etc. Be sure to check us out on our social media channels that can be found in the show notes or the episode description. For info and fandoms outside of the Star Wars realm, be sure to check out our friends over on the Galactic Dads podcast. They can be found at Galactic Dads on all platforms. But for us, we're going to make our jump to hyperspace. So for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time,
may the Force be with you.